Have you ever found yourself completely lost in a book? Or maybe a movie, just so utterly immersed that the world around you just kind of fades away?
Oh, absolutely. Or, when a story, even one is totally fictional, actually changes your mind about something.
Exactly. What is going on in our brains when that happens? That profound pull.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It feels like more than just simple entertainment. It taps into something really deep about how we're wired.
That's what we're digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into why we love stories, the psychology of narrative transportation and connection.
Yeah, we're going to look at the science, what happens in the brain, why we seem hardwired for stories, and how they affect everything from our mental health to our empathy, even our beliefs.
Right. Our mission really is to unpack this incredible power storytelling has, from like ancient myths right up to the latest streaming series.
And hopefully show how understanding this universal human thing can give us some pretty profound insights into ourselves and how we connect with the world.
Okay, so if stories have this power, this almost magical ability to reshape us, where does it start? I know you mentioned this term, narrative transportation.
Yes, that's often the starting point. It's not just a cool phrase. It describes that experience where your mind doesn't just process a story. It feels like it truly enters it.
Enters it. How so?
Well, basically, narrative transportation is that feeling of being completely absorbed, like you've been physically transported somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
Think about the last time you were totally gripped by a novel or a film or even just someone telling you a really vivid story.
Yeah.
Everything else just melts away, right? The phone, the noise outside, it's gone. Researchers, people like Green and Brock and Gehrig, they actually compare it to physical travel.
Travel.
Yeah, you're detached from your everyday life. You journey through this new landscape, this story world, and you come back maybe just a little bit changed by it.
That's a great way to put it. So it's active, not passive. You're in it. What pulls us into that state? What are the key ingredients?
It's a mix of things. First, there's focused attention. You become so concentrated on the story that, seriously, distractions just vanish. You're not even aware of them.
Okay.
Second, emotional engagement. This is huge. You get really strong feelings, often deep empathy for the characters. You feel their joy, their fear.
Like it's happening to you.
Exactly. Third, your mind starts creating mental imagery. Super vivid pictures of the story's world, the sights, sounds, maybe even smells. And you start predicting, right? Thinking what's going to happen next.
Yes, you do.
And finally, there's this cognitive detachment from reality. You genuinely feel in the story psychologically separate from your actual surroundings. Your own reality is kind of suspended for a bit.
Wow. So our brains are basically building this whole alternate reality on the fly, which leads to the next big question. What's actually going on up there, chemically and cognitively, during all this?
This is where it gets really cool. Your brain on stories is like buzzing with activity. The prefrontal cortex, your brain CEO, basically is working hard, figuring out the plot, the characters, what might happen.
Right. The thinking part.
The thinking part. But then you've got the amygdala, the emotion center. It's crucial because it tags the information with emotional weight.
Tags it.
Yeah, it links the feelings you have during the story to the memory of the story itself. That makes it way more powerful, more memorable than just dry facts. It sticks with you because you felt it.
So it's not just what you understand, it's what you feel.
Yeah.
Deeply.
Precisely. And that feeling is fueled by this amazing mix of brain chemicals. Some call it the angel's cocktail.
Angel's cocktail. Okay, tell me more.
Well, when something good happens in the story, like the hero succeeds, you get a hit of dopamine. That's the reward chemical. It makes you feel good, focused, motivated. It's like your brain is saying, yes, pay attention, this is important. And then there's oxytocin, that's often called the love chemical or bonding hormone. It fosters trust, connection, empathy, not just with real people, but with the characters too.
So that's where the empathy comes from.
The big part of it, yeah. And if the story is funny or heartwarming, you get endorphins. They make you feel relaxed, happy, even boosts creativity. It's this whole chemical reward loop that makes stories so powerful for learning and bonding.
It's like our brains are literally designed to reward us for engaging with stories.
Yeah.
But it's not just in our heads, right? Our bodies react.
Oh, absolutely. This brings us to sensory stimulation and neural mirroring. Basically, parts of your brain react as if you were actually doing or sensing what's happening in the story.
Seriously.
Yeah. Your auditory cortex processes the sounds described. Your sensory cortex lights up for sight, smells, tastes, movement. It's incredibly immersive. Think about reading a description of baking bread.
You can almost smell it.
Exactly. Or reading about cold wind can make you feel a chill.
Yeah.
There was this Princeton study where people listened to sentences about actions like, he kicked the ball, and guess what? The motor cortex in their brains lit up, the part that controls movement.
Wow. So my brain is kind of simulating the action. Like when I watch a tense movie scene, maybe that famous shower scene in Psycho.
Psycho is the perfect example. Hitchcock was a master at this. That scene, the screeching music, the quick cuts, the implied violence, it creates this intense physical reaction. Your sensory brain regions fire up like you're there. Your heart pounds. You're literally on the edge of your seat.
That makes sense.
And it's not just fiction. Vivid journalism, a powerful personal story someone tells you, they can trigger the same immersive physical response. It's why we sometimes jump or flinch along with a character. Our mirror neurons are working overtime.
Okay, that explains so much about why certain stories just grab you and don't let go. It's a whole body thing.
Oh.
And beyond just the feeling, you mentioned stories are like meaning-making machines.
Yes, that's a fundamental role they play. Our brains are wired, just inherently wired, to find patterns to make sense of chaos. The hippocampus, for example, is constantly working to take scattered bits of information and arrange them into logical sequences, into coherent narratives. Stories give us the structure to do that.
So they help us organize the world.
They are how we organize the world in many ways. It's like the brain's operating system for turning raw data into something meaningful, something we can understand and remember.
And is that why we hate leaving a story unfinished? That feeling of needing to know what happens next?
Absolutely. That's the drive for resolution. When a story is incomplete, it doesn't just make us curious. It actually activates the reward centers in our brain, places like the striatum and nucleus accumbens.
Okay.
They release dopamine, creating this, craving for closure. We need to know how it ends. It's why cliffhangers work so well. Our brains demand that finished structure, that completed meaning.
That explains my binge-watching habits. And you see this need for narrative everywhere, right? Not just in novels and movies.
Everywhere. Think
Right.
about historians. They don't just give you lists of dates. They craft narratives out of messy events to show cause and effect, to find meaning, or news articles. They take complex current events and frame them as stories, often with heroes, villains, a clear beginning, middle, and maybe an implied end to help us make sense of it all.
Even nonfiction books do that.
Exactly. They use narrative tricks, foreshadowing, climax to make information stick, to make it compelling. It's how we impose order on a confusing world and, importantly, how we share that understanding.
So stories aren't just for fun or making sense of the past. They actually have real, measurable benefits for us, mentally and socially. What are some of the big ones?
Oh, the benefits are huge. First off, stories boost crucial skills. Things like listening intently, using your imagination. These aren't just nice-to-haves. They genuinely help us cope better with stress, build resilience.
And memory. You mentioned memory.
Massively. Get this. Information woven into a story is remembered up to 22 times better than just hearing the facts alone.
22 times. Wow.
It's incredible, right? So if you want someone to remember something, tell them a story about it. Beyond memory, stories are key for emotional regulation.
How so?
They can genuinely increase positive emotions, boost optimism, which improves how we handle tough times. There was this amazing study with kids in hospital.
Oh.
Just one storytelling session led to measurable increases in oxytocin, that bonding chemical, and decreases in cortisol, the stress hormone. Plus, the kids reported less pain and felt better emotionally.
Just from a story. That's powerful.
It really is a simple narrative having that kind of physiological effect.
And what about empathy? You mentioned oxytocin and bonding with characters.
Yes, this is so important. When we connect with characters, that oxytocin release essentially primes us for better real-world relationships. Stories are like empathy gyms. They let us vicariously experience what someone else is feeling, understand their point of view, literally walk a mile in their shoes.
Makes sense.
And research backs this up. People who read fiction, especially stories focused on relationships, tend to score higher on empathy tests. We're practicing understanding others.
I heard about teachers doing creative things with this, like using actual shoes.
Yes, there are great examples, like a teacher using paper cutouts of shoes for Romeo and Juliet, having students stand on them and speak from that character's perspective.
That's brilliant.
Or a parent using real shoes for Charlotte's Web. These tangible things really help embed that empathetic understanding. It moves from the page into, embodied knowing.
Using the story as a bridge between people. And how does this scale up? How do stories help hold societies together?
They are absolutely fundamental for social cohesion. They're the main way cultures transmit beliefs, norms, values across generations. Think about ancient myths, religious texts, even national histories.
Right, the stories we tell about ourselves.
Exactly. Or communal storytelling like Balinese dance telling ancient tales, or stained glass windows in old churches teaching Bible stories. These shared narratives build trust, cooperation, a sense of us. They help form group identity.
And this applies today too, right? Like scientists using stories.
Totally. More and more scientists are using storytelling to connect with the public, to explain not just the what, but the why and the who behind the research, make it human. And on a personal level, think about narrative therapy. It helps people reframe their own life stories, find meaning in challenges, build self-esteem. We construct our identities through narrative.
It really seems woven into everything. Thinking even bigger picture now. Where does this deep love for stories come from, evolutionarily speaking? Is it just a human thing?
It seems to be profoundly human, yeah. Storytelling is everywhere. In every culture throughout history, it seems linked to our very development as a species. A key part of this is something called mental time travel, or MTT.
Mental time travel, like a DeLorean in your head.
Sort of. It's our ability to mentally revisit the past, that's episodic memory, and, crucially, to imagine and plan for the future.
Okay, so remembering and simulating, how is that an advantage?
Huge advantage. Learning from past mistakes, planning future hunts or harvests. MTT lets us escape the immediate present and think about different possibilities. And crucially, we could share these past experiences or future plans through stories.
So I could learn from your mistake without having to make it myself.
Exactly. Imagine sharing a story about which berries were poisonous last year or where the predators were. This ability to learn vicariously through narrative was a massive leap for our survival and cooperation.
Okay, that makes sense. And you also mentioned theory of mind.
Yes, Tom, that's the other critical piece. It's the ability to understand that other people have their own minds, their own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, intentions, knowledge that might be different from ours.
Being able to see things from someone else's perspective.
Precisely. It's essential for communication, figuring out what someone else knows or doesn't know. It's the basis for cooperation, understanding social rules, predicting how others might behave. It lets us navigate our complex social world.
And how does that link to stories? Like understanding symbolism, maybe in something like Dr. Seuss.
Perfect example. To get the deeper meaning in, say, the Grinch who stole Christmas, that the Grinch represents bitterness, the Who's represent community spirit, you need theory of mind. You need to understand meaning beyond the literal words.
Right, it's not really just about a green guy stealing presents.
Exactly. Kids develop, Tom, alongside their ability to understand these more complex symbolic narratives. These two capacities, mental time travel and theory of mind, work together. They're what allow us to create and understand stories that carry complex, abstract meanings.
Which brings us to a really powerful, maybe even slightly scary point. Stories are incredibly persuasive. When fiction feels like fact, it can really shape us.
This is so important to understand. Remember narrative transportation. When we're deeply immersed in a story.
Yeah, lost in it.
Well, that state makes us much more open to the story's messages. Our tendency to mentally argue against things, what researchers call counter-arguing, goes way down.
So our critical guard is lowered.
Essentially, yes. We become more receptive, sometimes without even noticing. A story's ideas can kind of sneak in under the radar.
Is that like the sleeper effect I've heard about?
Exactly like that. Stories can have these delayed, long-lasting, persuasive effects that might even grow over time. They can subtly shift how we see the world, the language we use. And our brains don't easily separate the emotions we feel during a fictional story from real-life emotions. The feelings are genuine. That's why sometimes a movie or a novel can feel more real or more impactful than a dry, factual report. People might even cite a fictional show as if it were evidence.
That is a bit unsettling, actually. How easily fiction can blur with reality in our minds.
It really underscores the power of symbolism and metaphors, too. Stories use them all the time. Think of The Social Dilemma showing AI as these manipulative little figures behind a screen.
Right, making an abstract idea feel concrete.
Exactly. These metaphors link up with mental models we already have, making the message more memorable and persuasive. If a story's metaphor taps into a fear or belief we already hold, it can feel incredibly true, even if it's not factually accurate because it resonates emotionally.
So what's the takeaway? We need to be really careful consumers of stories.
It definitely calls for a critical engagement. Stories are vital. They help us make meaning, process difficult things. But we have to recognize how susceptible we are to their persuasive pull, especially when strong emotions like fear are involved.
So don't just ask, is this story true?
Ask that, but also ask, why does this feel true to me? What emotions is it tapping into? What assumptions is it making? Being aware of the mechanism helps us engage more thoughtfully. Critical thinking can take a backseat when our emotions are highly activated.
Wow. Okay. We have journeyed through quite a lot today, from the feeling of getting lost in a book to the chemicals in our brain, the way stories build societies, and even how they persuade us. It's fundamental.
It really is. Stories aren't just fluff. They're not just entertainment. They are deeply, deeply embedded in how our brains work, how we feel, how we connect, how we understand everything. From oxytocin release to mental time travel, our love for narrative is this incredibly powerful, defining human trait.
So the big takeaway seems to be, stories are how we make sense of it all, how we learn from the past, imagine the future, and crucially, connect with each other. They're like a blueprint for understanding ourselves and humanity.
Beautifully put. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you go about your day, just notice the stories, the ones you tell yourself, the ones you consume, news, movies, conversations, the ones you share.
Think about how they might be shaping your world.
Exactly. How are they shaping your perspective, your actions, and maybe what new stories could you seek out? Stories that might challenge you, expand your understanding, or deepen your connection to the amazing, complex world we live in.